Hello everyone, I've just reached Exalted with the Wintersaber trainers, which allowed me to get the famous blue mount from Classic. And since it's quite a long grind, it takes, I would say, at least 20 hours, maybe between 20 and 30. I have found ways to optimize it, at least for me. So I want to share them with you so it feels like I didn't really waste all the time that I've actually wasted. So we start here. This is the start of your cycle. When you get to Revered, you are able to complete 3 quests at the same time. The first suggestion that I have is, if you're an engineer, and you should use your TBC rocket boots plus your parachute cloak to just get back here. You summon your pet back, and then you start your cycle. For a pet, I'm using a cobra. I don't know if it's actually technically a cobra. How is it called? Serpent, yeah. For 2 reasons. The first one is that the speed is quite useful to pull, for example, like that. Because you wanna, this mob usually die with 1 or 2 shots. They even die with just an auto shot if it crits. And the second reason is that cunning pets are able to have infinite shit, my inventory is full. They're able to infinitely dash if talented appropriately, and shit, I will finish space in my inventory quite often. This is a big waste of time, but if you have a Traveler Standard Mammoth, it's going to be useful. You can make some money while grinding, or see from next patch you can have your Argent Crusade pet with the saddle, or you can have jeeps, or just the engineering robots to sell shit. So I was saying that the second advantage of a cunning pet is the fact that they're constantly able to dash. The third one is that, of course, they have Roar of Recovery. Let me see what I can delete here. So much useless shit. Oh yeah, I could have just sold this shit. Anyway. And that's why I'm using a serpent. Another suggestion, of course, is to have your inventory completely empty. There isn't really anything of value that you can loot except greens, which are great to be disenchanted if you have an alt that can do that. And the second item that is useful to keep is Bear Flank. For some reason, as you can see in my server, the average price is 6.5 gold each. But still, even the region market value average is 2.5, and you will get a lot. And you're actually going to be selling these. So it's not really a fake price. I think, probably as with anything else, some guides might use them for skilling cooking, and so people just buy it from the auction house without really checking if it's the best path. This full inventory thing is going to annoy me to no end, so what I'm actually going to do is just send at least the disenchantable stuff to my alt. Alright. I'm actually going to send a bit more stuff. This video is going to be completely disorganized. I'm sorry about that. It's just the way it is. Either I make it that way or I just don't make it at all. So that's how it's gonna be. Alright, we have inventory space. Huge. You might have noticed that I have this interface thingy here. This is a Wikora that I made specifically to farm quests here, and it's basically split by the 3 quests. So right now what we are doing is getting 5 meats from the bears and 5 meats from the ravagers. The Wikora just keeps track of the items and plays a little chime whenever you're done, so that you don't just mindlessly keep killing shit. But also it allows to so taking a step back, the first quest is to get items, while the second and the third are to get kills. So for the first quest, it tracks the items because it's easy. It doesn't track kill count for the second and the third, but for all of them, if you click, it targets quest mobs. So it's quite useful if you're just missing one of the two kind of mobs and you don't want to use your eyes or your brain. You just click and find them. Don't really have a use case here, so I'm not going to force it. You can understand how that can be useful. For example, I need one Ravager. I don't need to think, I don't need to do anything. I just click, send my pet, follow my pet. The mob is dead. And now I know that there aren't any close, except now a new one just spawned. And as you see, my pet is constantly hasted. They are together, multi-shot, they're both dead. And I finish my quest. You might have heard the sound. It means that, my first quest is done. Of course, I will, if I remember, if I don't, please remind me, I will paste the link for this WotLK that I made into the chat. This was an awful bug. That is, when you right click, auto shot starts and it automatically dismount me. I hate it. The thing is that if you fix it, and there is a WotLK that fixes it, then looting gets wonky because it basically removes the ability to right click, and it's awful. All right, so animals, there are a huge amount, so usually it's uncontested, while this second step, the Timbermoor Camp quest, is often extremely contested. You can skip the mobs that are out here. You don't care about Den Watcher. Shamans tend to be the worst one to find, and you need 5 shamans and 5 ursas. So usually what I do is I come into this camp, I kill everything because these spawn positions are actually shared with shamans, so you just want to clear this, especially if you're grinding, because maybe they are Den Watchers now, but you want to make sure that if you come back, you give a chance for shamans to spawn. And again, shamans are the worst one. I am not getting any reputations with my kills right now because I am exalted, but basically doing this kind of grind is also very synergistic with grinding Timbermoor reputation. I suggest that you just start by doing all the quests that give Timbermoor reputation before starting any of this grind, because up until you hit Revered, each kill gives you rep. So try to get to Revered with just rep from kills. Another tip, chests like this might spawn, just loot them and then you can just sell everything. It's just free gold while you're farming this shit. We are hunters, so we can just track humanoids. Here is another camp. But again, Ursas are not really the bottleneck here. Shamans are. Because Ursas can spawn in all of these spots, but also on the ridge up there. So first of all, we check the shaman spawns. This is another one. Again, we go for the bottleneck first. And with High Chief Winterfall, there is also always a shaman here. And if you farmed the warrior Winterfall Firewater, you know exactly how this cave works in Classic. I just used it because it makes me bigger. They aren't really getting any traction on the Action Eyes. I haven't tried to sell them very aggressively, to be honest, but they're quite worthless. So now that I have shamans, I can just go up here and you see, Ursa, Ursa, Ursa. You just finish off with your Ursas. Final advice for this camp is try to invite everyone that you see, because lots of low-level people are going to be here for questing. Try to just invite them, set loot as free for all, and try to not be out of range if or when they kill stuff. You will probably end up grouping with everyone that is also grinding here, because it, you know, it benefits everyone to you know, clear the camp together. Just be the leader, be ready to invite everyone immediately, and it will make it much smoother. And that's the camp done. Finally, we are heading to the giants. If you're still missing some meat, for example, you wanted to do the camp with a friend, remember that, you know, you can finish your animal quest basically all over Winterspring. You see that there is shit everywhere. And now we're just going to the giants. You can see here I have some routes in my map and in my minimap. These are from the add-on routes, which is originally made to, you know, mindlessly farm open world materials. But I sometimes make it on routes that I, you know, run often, just so that I don't really have to think where I'm going. I can just follow the line and I can just turn off my brain. For the giants, we need 4 giants and 4 preservers. As far as I know, the spawn is shared among all of them. Unless someone else is also grinding the same mobs, you will basically find them all around the rim of this this valley and below. What I usually do is, you know, if I come up here and I see that my radar lights up, meaning that, you know, there are several mobs below, I just tend to jump. But if I come here and I don't see any giant, usually I don't go down. This time, just for science, I went down. I shouldn't have, because as you see, this whole area hasn't respawned. There is just these lonely preservers, so in order to make it quick, I should have just avoided coming down here. But since I'm speaking, I make mistakes. That's just how it works. Giant, giant. Remember to use your trap. I mean, I'm playing like shit because I'm talking. But, you know, just you can be much quicker than this. Pull many mobs. Use your pet to pull the other mobs to you. And then usually if, you know, I have many mobs, I just throw an explosive trap and I start looting while the mobs die one by one. Alright, so, you know, the spawn is 50-50. It often happens that you just need one more mob. So after you go down in the crater, you just go around the rim and you start picking them off. So we have a preserver here. You don't need to loot them. Actually, I've seen some people just completely ignore the loot on these ones. That's perfectly fine. They really don't drop anything of value. Even, you know, the frost protection potion is 5 gold, maybe 20 sometimes, but they just don't drop basically anything. It's not worth stopping sometimes for just a few silver. Alright, I need a preserver. There are no preservers close because I'm clicking my Wikora and no one is coming up. Back to the Timbermow rep. So again, I suggest you check the Wowhead article in order to understand how to properly do the rep. What I suggest is, if you start and you are at the beginning of Revered, like I was, you can just, again, farm the camp and get to, the beginning of Honored. You can just farm the camp and get to Revered. And if you have done all the quests, you will be looting Winterfall Spirit Beads from the mobs. In the grind, you will loot more than 200, I'd say like 250, maybe 300. Don't turn them in, of course, until you are Revered, because at Revered you stop getting rep from kills, and the only way you can get rep is through turn-ins. So hold on your beads, and then as soon as you hit revert, you can start offloading them. They're offloaded 5 by 5, so if you just want to clear your inventory, just get to a multiple of 5, and you can turn them in here, beads for sulfur. Now I will follow my routes to go back, and I mean, if you're doing this alone, as in without a paladin friend, I strongly suggest you spec specifically into mount speed. So what I would actually suggest is, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're survival or marksmanship, I would not do this as BM, simply because you need Chimera shot and explosive shot to just one-shot shit. What I would make sure to grab, I don't know if you can actually do that if you have enough points, but the key talents for me are pathfinding. So you get 10% more mount speed. You're going to be running, you know, back and forth a lot. So that's definitely worth it. So 12 point in BM. If you go MM, make sure to grab aim shot. Probably arcane shot is also quite good. Again, as MM, then you would have, you know, aimed, you would have arcane, and you would have chimera as instants to just one tap mobs. So it's good to have, you know, 3 global cooldowns in which you'll be able to kill 3 different mobs. And that was my phone going off, not yours. Don't panic. I don't think I've ever used readiness, just because I'm not used to really to playing marksmanship. And the third talent that you should definitely have, so on top of pathfinding and aim shot, is WotLK. Just for the ability to pull from a bigger distance. You can just, you know, serpent sting several mobs, they come to you, and by the time they are on you, the pet or you or, you know, your explosive trap can just finish them off, and all of them are ready to be looted right next to you. So now I'm lazily just following my arrows. So the return arrow is not as good. It gets more useful later, I would say. This was also a good point to use boots, but yeah. Once you're getting to this straight, it's basically completely straight from here until the rock. So you see here there is a bit of a valley and there is a turn. This line is not completely straight, but once you're here, you can basically just point towards this ditch and you will get right to the basis of the rock. Once you're here, remember to keep your rocket boots extreme so that, you know, your 30-second cooldown is ready for you whenever you are done questing. As far as automation goes, I use, let's see, I use an add-on which I forgot how it's called. Let's see if I find it. No, I cannot find it, but basically if you saw me, like I automatically sell junk plus some other stuff. Actually, I have a blacklist or a whitelist, whatever, where I've added not just, you know, gray items, but also, for example, low level water that you loot here, so that whenever I just sell shit, I also sell stuff that I don't intend to use. When you get here, I have Latrix Plus, so that by holding shift, I can just turn in all 3 quests, and then it automatically accepts the first one. You click one more time with shift, and then one more time with shift, and you're ready to do it again. Happy grinding. Bye bye.